Hi, everybody. It's Marianne Bailey, the HIP Senior and Online Tech Lessons, the Senior Tutor, coming to you from Dayton, Ohio. And today we have got Lyn from Happy Hormone Cottage LLC, right?
Right, yes.
How are you today, Lyn?
I'm good, thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited that you took time out of your vacation to be able to share some great information to us today. So what do you want to talk about today?
Gosh, there's so many things that I do want to hit on, but I think, first of all, the name is interesting, Happy Hormone Cottage. People love it or hate it, which is sort of the point. It's just memorable. They'll never forget it. And because we began in a little teeny cottage, actually, it was built by Abraham Lincoln's cousin Nathan back in the 1800s. It seems very appropriate. And people always want to know, how did you start and what began your journey? So I'll give you the 2-minute elevator speech. How's that? I was an educator for 30 years in inner city, and when I was in my late 40s, I began to have some issues with heavy bleeding, and it comes to find out that I needed a really emergency hysterectomy. And my doctor said right before the surgery, okay, Lyn, ovaries in or ovaries out. This was in 2004, and I didn't know a lot about ovaries or hormones or what they were. So all I knew is that Gilda Radner, remember her, the comedian, had just died of uterine cancer. And being Irish, I'm a worrier. I could either drink or worry, and luckily I worry. I said to him, no, ovaries out. Just take the, so I don't have to worry about uterine or ovarian cancer, just take them out. So he did. And I didn't realize then in 2004 that those were my little hormone factories. Well, luckily I was married, and still I'm married to this wonderful man, Jeff Hogrefe, who is a pharmacist and a compounding pharmacist. And he said to me, he goes, I know what's going to happen. Because he worked at that point in a big box store, and he saw all of his women coming in every month for their hormone medication. And they all seemed really cranky, and they were kind of overweight after hysterectomy, and then none of them wanted any sex. And he, being 10 years younger than me, thought, oh my God, not on my watch, stabbed me in the heart. So he went to school in Houston, Texas to become a compounding pharmacist, so he could sort of direct my journey into this whole hormone piece. So when it came time for me to go back to see my OBGYN, Dr. Frank, whom I loved, at my 8 or 10 week post-surgery appointment, Jeff went with me, and I just remember sitting there in the chair. I was still kind of weak from the surgery, and I hadn't gone back to teaching again. I was still recovering. And Jeff had his lab coat on that said Jeff RPH. Dr. Frank had his OBGYN lab coat on, and they sat there and they talked back and forth. And I just sort of listened. The end of the conversation, Dr. Frank said to Jeff, okay, Jeff, your wife, your cause is on this prescription for you, not me, but for you, Jeff. So Jeff went back to a compounding lab that he was familiar with, and he had them compound my therapy, and I began to use my hormone creams, and lo and behold, I didn't gain the average 40 pounds that most women that have hysterectomy gain. I didn't lose energy. I still felt the same. I still had libido. It was just a whole different ballgame than most other women experience. And we recognized at that point that, oh my God, we're onto something. It was progesterone. And so I finished teaching in 2007. And just began to recognize that women really needed information that no one else really knew, because this is not taught in medical school. Our beloved doctors know a lot. They don't know a lot about hormone balance. In fact, they've told me they've had 4 hours of hormone education in medical school, 4 hours.
It was shocking when I found that out as well. I was just like, how do you not know more about this?
It's not, well, because, this is going to sound cynical, but a lot of our medical schools are funded by drug companies, right? And so a lot of it's all standard of care. Standard of care is always a lot about pharmaceutical companies and insurance. There's all a big, web there. And so there's a lot of room for more natural options or holistic health or functional medicine. So women just end up falling into this big black hole. And I just happened to realize this need because of my journey, women to know the truth about their bodies. And so when I finished teaching in 2007, I just decided I really needed to talk to women about the truth about their bodies. So I opened up this little teeny cottage in Centerville. We call it the Happy Hormone Cottage, and women showed up. And I just filled the gap between what our doctors know or don't know and the truth. And I was just obedient to what I knew needed to be done. And women showed up, and they began to get better, and they told their friends and family, they told their friends and family, and pretty soon we exploded into 5 different locations, including Missouri. Today we have 3 locations that are close by me, so I can manage them easily. We have the Mason Happy Hormone Cottage, we have the Vandalia Happy Hormone Cottage, and we have our huge integrative hormone center in Centerville with the Happy Hormone Cottage headquarters there. So that's how the journey began. It's been 12 years now, and it's just still going strong.
So what are your next steps? What are you guys going to continue expanding? Are you focused on bringing different services? What do you guys think you're going to do?
That's a great question. Well, so let's back up. So in 2009, I began my cottage, and women began to get better. In about 2013, they began to pester me in a loving way for help for their husbands, their partners. They would come in and say, "Oh my God, I feel amazing. Where can I send my quote unquote old fart husband?" And we didn't know anybody. We didn't really have anyone that we could send anybody to. So my husband Jeff went back to school and got an advanced fellowship in functional medicine. He could begin to work with the men. So we have since opened up what's called the IHC, Integrative Hormone Center for Men. That's housed in our IHC, Integrative Hormone Center in Centerville. So that building
nice. I've been there.
yeah, you have been there. We actually I should back up and say that my husband bought the Pickle Medicine Shop and Company Lab in Pickle, Ohio in 2007, based on our journey together with my own health stuff. And then we bought our own building 2 years ago and moved the Pickle Company Lab to Centerville and called it the Integrative Hormone Center and Compounding Lab, which is where we have our IHC for Men Center and my Happy Hormone Cottage headquarters. But your question about services, what we've discovered over time is that women come in for hormone issues, which would involve thyroid, Hashimoto's, cortisol, fatigue, and of course the sex hormone issues. But there are also a number of women who we would fix those pieces, and they still wouldn't be, I don't want to say better, they were better, but we still knew there were some missing pieces that they just we weren't addressing because it wasn't in our arena. So with Jeff's functional medicine degree, he can now meet with women and men and heal gut issues and heal other types of issues. And then from there went into genetic testing. So now we have two types of genetic tests that we offer, women and men, one from nutrigenomics and one DNA life. So now we can really go in and find and fix the root cause of all issues. And it kind of partners really well with the hormone piece. So I think that's where we've expanded into is functional medicine, finding and fixing the root cause of issues, being really, really great with the hormone piece. Then women who have other extra issues, we can also go in and help them address that as well. So I think we've really come full circle. We don't really have plans to do more because to just do what we do and keep on top of that is a huge job. We don't want to get so big that we can't do our job really well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know roughly how many women you have helped through the years now?
Thousands. I mean, thousands, yeah, a lot of women.
Because I know last year, I was telling you earlier, I had both my ovaries removed. I had a huge cyst, the size of a grapefruit on one. It just basically was my ovary at that point. And
yeah.
I found it because I had a kidney infection from a UTI into a kidney infection. And they weren't giving me enough medicine to properly treat it. I was in enough pain that I finally asked my daughter, please take me to the ER.
Yeah.
And they did a CAT scan and then an ultrasound because they saw something in the CAT scan. Sent me down for an ultrasound and I'm like, is it a cyst? And then she's like, yeah, something's going on. So I can tell you that. And, 6 months later had it out. I'm self-employed. So I had to, wait until I was in a place to where I could afford to be able to recover.
Right.
And again, the question was, do we take both your ovaries? Do we take one? Do we take both? Do we do a full hysterectomy? Some of it was based on my mom's DNA test as to whether it was genetic and whatever. And stuff like that. And when I was questioning it, I reached out to women in the community and said, or on Facebook, and I said, hey, who's had this kind of surgery? How far did you go with it? What were the circumstances? Because, a lot of it, he was like leaving up to me. And he was like, and I said, if I was your family, what would you do? And he said, I would take out both ovaries. And so when I was getting ready to go into surgery, he came in and said, hey, I'm ready today if you want to do a full hysterectomy. And I'm like, no, no, I don't, as being self-employed, I don't have time to be off my feet for several months recovering or whatever. Luckily I haven't had any symptoms and stuff like that, but you and I were talking earlier that I know that I still probably need some progesterone and some stuff going on like that. But the one common thing was that when I asked people in our community about questions and where did you go? Who did you talk with? Your name kept coming up. And I knew you were there. I knew you existed. I knew that you guys were doing great work. You and I had never talked before, but I knew who you were, and I knew that eventually you and I were going to connect one way or another.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So now because of the Hip Senior, we're doing this, and some other circumstances have brought us together in some other ways. But thank you so much for being there for women and caring enough, because again, like you said, medicine, and I'm not medicine bashing by any means, but I'd love to see more of a emphasis on natural solutions.
Right.
Because I've known about progesterone. My mom had breast cancer, 20 years ago. And, I went to her and she says, oh, my doctor says that I can read about it and I can use it. And I was like, well, I'd be worried about your doctor if he told you absolutely you could not.
Right. Right.
But at the same time, I know doctors, like when I asked about it, they said, oh, well, we'd put you on something synthetic and it's not harmful these days and all this other stuff. And I'm just, and, I've read enough from like Dr. John Lee and stuff to know, no, that's not the route that I went on. He prescribed synthetic estrogen for women and then started his foundation or whatever it was, because he realized that he was on the wrong path and that he needed to do more studies and go the natural way with that.
Right.
And
well,
so
doctors know what they know. Doctors know what they know, and they're great people, but they know what they know. And if this is not taught in medical school, then they probably don't know a lot about it, or they know what drug reps tell them. The good news is, and I've got this chart on my website, happyhormonecottage.com, women used to ask me all the time, I've heard that hormones cause cancer. Tell me the truth. And back in the day, even a few years ago, that was the common misconception. But I think most people know that the synthetic hormones are the ones that have the cancer-causing potential. But what we do with bioidentical hormones, for the most part, do not. And then on the bioidentical pathway, there are two pathways. One that comes from big pharma, which is the estrogen patch, estrogen gel, estrogen pill, and progesterone capsules. They're not bad products, but they're one size fits most. And doctors determine the need based on symptoms and based on blood work and for a limited time. And our knowledge base and our belief is that we want to customize bioidentical hormone therapy for each woman based on their needs, not a blood test, but based on a huge 15-page report from dried urine that tells what's happening inside their body within methylation and metabolite pathways. So we want a lot of information from the body, and we can make each woman what she needs based on what her body is telling us. So it's just a whole different, very involved pathway, but we're really good at what we do. And I'm really proud of our reputation because we're not in it for the money, we're in it for the community and for helping women understand the truth about their bodies, and they can help other women. So it's women helping women, actually.
Now, do you find women come to you when they're desperate and they're having hot flashes and their marriage is on the rocks and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to do something about this? Or do you find that they're starting to be more educated about it and coming to you preemptively, or both?
Yep. That's a great question. Actually, both. The millennials love us. The millennials want truth, honesty. They want natural. They want to know. They want to be involved and educated. So we have millennials, young people coming to us to be proactive. And then we have women coming in that are just desperate. Progesterone is called the joy of life hormone. So when you don't have progesterone after age 35, it begins to fall away. You begin to lose those joyful moments. And so women come into me at the age of 42, 48, and they'll come in, they'll just plop down, they'll go, oh, I just can't go on. And they all complain of fatigue and no libido and just kind of unhappy. So, and progesterone isn't a magic cream, but it certainly does help them recover things like sleep. And it helps them with overirritability, it helps with anxiety, helps with depression, helps aches and pains, helps with weight, so that they feel better about themselves, and then they can have joyful moments again. So if we do nothing, today is the best day we're ever going to have. So even if there are no symptoms present, if you do nothing on your journey, you, not meaning you, but just generically, you'll never be any better than you are today. Well, that isn't good enough for me. I want to be the best I can be every day. Right. So I just read a quote that your health isn't an expense, it's an investment. I want to invest in my health. It's all I have.
I get a lot of women that, I work almost exclusively with small businesses and then with senior citizens. And so I get a lot of women, and when I was setting it for my mom, especially, and for me and for my daughter's sake moving forward, the estrogen dominance part of stuff of, you know, like when you see women that are walking around, and if you're a woman and you're in this category, definitely go see Lyn, but I'm definitely not picking on anybody at all.
Right.
But women that have been skinny their entire lives, and all of a sudden now they've got like, you see them, they've got like round stomachs and really tiny little bird legs. But, you know, they're estrogen dominant, and there's something that they can be doing about it. And they're still beautiful, but they could be doing better for their health. And, you know, stuff like you said, you know, people that are dealing with even like facial hair, people don't realize that that's all hormone driven and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, lack of sex. I'll put it out there in the world. I can't imagine a time when I would absolutely not want to have sex and to know that it's because of hormones and that it could be fixed.
Absolutely. We get that a lot. Yeah. It can be fixed. It's
right.
Yeah.
So I just can't imagine someone going through life and being like, you know, it just doesn't interest me around menopause or whatever. It just kind of whatever. Around 35, I just started hating it. Well, fix that. Fix that for your relationship. Fix that for your husband. Fix it for yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, for yourself. So.
Right. And lots of women complain of dryness. You know, vaginal dryness is no joke. It hurts. It makes having intercourse or intimacy really painful. So we can easily fix that. The thing about you know, hormone therapy, there are a lot of hormone centers out there now. There are not on every corner, but there are a lot of them out there. And I think we're unique in that we have our own compounding lab. So people come to us full circle from the very beginning, their own nurse practitioners, our own medical director, our own compounding lab. So we can, failures are an option for us. We're part of every single piece of that. And also we don't do pellets. I did want to spend some time talking about pellets. Pellets are really,
about them.
Yeah, pellets are really a popular way for women to get libido back and so on, but we don't believe in them. And on my website, I've got a whole web page about why we don't believe in them for women. And we spend a lot of our time fixing women who've been damaged from pellets. They're a wonderful money maker. I don't want the money. This is my business. I want the integrity. And when I'm dead someday, I want my tombstone to say she lived a life of integrity. And to me, pellets have no integrity because they're just they can be so damaging. We have women coming in that are balding. They've got male pattern baldness. They've got enlarged Adam's apples, hair on their chest, uterine cancer. I mean, it's horrible. So we just don't believe in pellets. So I think whoever is going to pursue hormone therapy, go to a place you've researched to understand all the aspects of what it is you're choosing.
What about for men?
It's interesting you asked that. The studies for women were extrapolated from the studies on men. They're actually okay for some men. My husband actually did pellets back in the day, and he's only 5'6", and he blew up like a balloon. They weren't good for him. I think there's a certain type of man, obviously taller, that can handle pellets probably better. But what we find with pellets is that the testosterone level goes up and down like a roller coaster. And what we do with men at our facility is we like to keep their testosterone level in a certain range. So we do blood work for them every 6 months. And we like to use subcutaneous, sub-Q little injectable testosterone where men give it themselves every 5 days or so underneath the skin of their stomach. And then it kind of keeps their testosterone level within a great range that's normal for them and doesn't go up and down like this. So that's what my husband does for his men that come in to see him at our IHC for men, and men seem to be very happy with that.
So I know, and no offense to men either, but men can be babies when it comes to pain. Does that hurt?
It actually doesn't. I have a really big problem with needles. I faint dead away. They're really small needles, and it's like a little prick, my husband says, because he does it himself as well. And most men have a little belly and a little fat in the belly, like who doesn't? So it's just underneath the skin, right into the fat. It's a little prick. It doesn't hurt.
Okay. Because I knew people were going to ask that, so I figured I would.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Absolutely.
So what else do you want to tell us about any of this stuff? What?
It's funny, but when I first began in 2009 in the heart of Centerville, I would say our average age woman was probably, I'm going to say in their 40s, maybe 48. And it's fallen to a lower age today. And we get a lot of women coming in who are in their 30s, even in their 20s, because we can help with heavy periods, clotting in the periods, infertility, and being proactive. And if my husband has always said, if we can give every 35-year-old a little progesterone, she will never suffer like women typically can suffer as they get older. And even though there are no symptoms apparent to an individual, hormones do such important tasks. Like estrogen, you do need some. It helps protect the heart and the brain. It does 300 jobs in the body. Testosterone, not just for men anymore, builds new bone, helps memory recall, helps energy, really important. Progesterone helps sleep, anxiety, depression, mood, irritability, sugar cravings, aches and pains, and helps prevent breast cancer. So if you just do nothing, you're going to be ripe for disease. But if you can fill your body with what it needs, and also checking the cortisol for adrenal fatigue and the 10-point thyroid panel, we have women coming in all the time who've been to endocrinologists or another doctor, and they've had just their TSH and T4 checked. I'm like, why? If you had a car, you wouldn't just check one air pressure and one type. When you check all 4, well, there are 10 points to our thyroid. Why don't more doctors check all 10 points, including the vitamin D, B12, ferritin, the TPO, the TJV? Why don't they check it all instead of the beloved TSH and T4? It's not enough. And then women come in, they're miserable, and the doctor either cuts the dose of their Synthroid in half or doubles it, and it's just so iffy. And so ours is more like an exact science, and we look at all the pieces together with the whole body, and then our women do really well with our thyroid protocol and our Hashimoto's protocol. And my husband's made a couple of really great adrenal support vitamins that are not expensive. And by the way, when we get a clicky top of progesterone, it costs $90. It'll last from 3 to 5 months. I don't think anyone can't afford that. Right. $90 for 3 to 5 months. So don't say, oh, I can't afford it, because indeed you can. And the step 1 consultations are $25. It used to be free. What I've discovered over years, Marianne, is that if women have a little skin in the game, it's valuable. So we charge $25. So they've got skin in the game. They come in for the hour, leave a nice folder of information. And then we don't sell used cars. We don't pressure you. You want to buy a testing kit, you can. If not, then have a great life. We'll be here if you ever need us. So we just love helping women without pressure.
That's really great. And I'm glad you brought up the price, because I know a lot of people worry that it's going to be expensive or that they can't afford it. And speaking from somebody who's, I used to have terrible PMS, and it wasn't, cramps and stuff like that. It was literally mood swings. I'd be fine one minute and throwing plates the next minute.
Yeah.
And you only have so many plates in your kitchen. That just can't be happening.
Right. Unless you want to do paper plates. Yeah.
Even then, so paper cuts, they hurt.
Yeah.
But so people worry, is the whole process expensive? Do you take insurance? What are some other questions that you get that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We used to take insurance. And then in 2016, we got a nice email from Express Scripts. They're not going to cover any compounds anymore for anybody. And so we lost a whole lot of money. And so we decided at that point that to stay afloat, that we would go ahead and just keep our prices reasonable and not deal with insurance. So what we do now, we do provide CPT codes. Women can get reimbursed.
Okay.
And there is an outlay of expense at the very beginning, but we do call, and I'll tell you what that is in a second. We do call every other hormone center in the tri-state area every year or so. And we are by far $2,000 a year or more less expensive than anybody else. So that's just a fact. For you to get started with us, for the women, it's $25 for step 1 consultation for the hour. And then the testing kit is $350. That is expensive. That is money. That's a 15-page report you get from that. You can get a CPT code to get reimbursed. That is an outlay of expense that we can't help that cost. It just is what it is. And when you come in as a nurse practitioner for the hour appointment to go over the 15-page results, that is another $225. The good news is, though, again, we can give you CPT codes to get reimbursed. That isn't an outlay of expense at one shot. You come in, you pay $350 for the kit, plus $25 for step 1. It takes a good month to get the results back and meet with a nurse practitioner. So the next month or 6 weeks later, it's another $225. And then your therapy will last you 3, 4, 5 months. It's $90. You would the most have 2 click tops, one for progesterone, one for the estrogen and testosterone if you needed it. So that's $180. And that's about it. So once you bought the kit and seen the NP, your expenses are pretty limited for quite a while. Okay, you come back at 3 months for a half hour for $100 to have any therapy adjusted, and you're good for the year. You only have to test every other year. So we don't find women after that initial outlay, it's not expensive.
Now, do you guys take credit cards? Can people use like their medical savings accounts?
Yeah, we do. We take credit cards. We take flex spending. We take HSA account cards. Is that what you call them? HSAs. We do all of that. Yeah, we do.
That's really great. I have a few male friends that do pellets, and the only reason I even know that is because, you know, when I start talking about hormones and women and in general
Yeah.
and stuff, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I do hormones. And I'm like, really, how do you do that? And a few of them had told me, you know, it hurts, you know, and they're really sore for days on end,
The pellets. Yeah. Yeah.
and you know, their skin gets really inflamed, and stuff like that. So it seemed, I looked up the process online. It seemed like it would be a very hurtful
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. I would, yeah. I mean, they have to go underneath the skin of the hip. They have to use some kind of what is it? An anesthesia, I guess, local anesthesia to numb it. And then, yeah, I mean, a pellet is an invasive process. Where we use cream, we like to use our hormone creams. When I first began in 2009, we used the hormone creams on our wrist, inner wrist or upper chest. But
Right.
now, the more that we do this, the better we get. The more we know. We like to use our creams now vaginally or on the inner thigh. If some women are icky about that, and a few women are icky about that, we say inner thigh, but vaginal application is the most direct route for the cream to go into all the hormone receptors in the body. It's the best delivery system we've found over years.
That sounds amazing. I hope more women see this and share it with their friends and their family members. I know I'll be talking to my 22-year-old daughter about this,
Yeah. Yeah.
because she's not that age, but you know, and I'm not going to share her personal experience because that's her story to tell.
Right.
But I know girls her age, you know, like you said, when you were experiencing, you know, heavy periods and cramps and different stuff like that, that it's really common these days. And
Right.
I think the more chemicals and stuff that we have in our bodies, in our food systems, and you know, that they feed the cows and everything
Right.
else, that it depletes our body of progesterone and important nutrients and hormones faster than what we used to.
Right. And then here's 5 words that are going to strike terror in your heart. You ready? Estrogen is a fat storer. So we're full of estrogen. It's a fat store. So you mentioned earlier that most women that are over 35 begin to get this pear-like shape.
Yeah.
It's because we're full of estrogen, and lack of progesterone there's not enough to counteract that. So we can take control of that journey. And also with your daughter, it's nice to have a baseline reading when you're in your 20s to know what you could be at your peak, and then where you are when you're in your later years. The only thing I do want to caution you is this: if anyone is currently on birth control, we cannot test them because birth control is all synthetic hormones, and it's like it would be wasting money on a testing kit because it wouldn't be a true read of your hormone. So if you're on any birth control that we can test with, is if you have the IUD, the copper IUD with no chemicals,
I was gonna ask about that.
we can, that's fine, just keep it in there. It doesn't interfere with anything that we do, and that's perfect solution for birth control and being able to use our hormone therapy. If you come in on some kind of a Mirena IUD or some kind of a birth control pill, you have to come off that pill and have a period before you can test, and then we prefer you stay off of it because it's all synthetic. And you got to find another method of birth control, like the copper IUD is a great, in my opinion, is a great alternative.
Because girls are starting to get their periods so much younger than 20, 30 years ago. And I'm sure it's because of all the crap that we put in the food lines.
And the environment and the toxins in the environment. It's all kind of a mess. You know, so yeah, something to be aware of and educated on. And again, because our OBGYNs that we go to and trust, and they're lovely people, don't know a lot about this, they're not going to be a good guide. I mean, we have women coming all the time who've been told a plethora of different things from their doctor, and most of them are simply not accurate. And so we want to find and fix the root cause. I mean, if you begin to get a hot flash and go to your doctor, they will probably give you an estrogen patch. Not a great strategy, for my opinion, because you already don't have enough progesterone. You already have too much estrogen. So you're going to be promoting a high risk of breast cancer, more weight gain. It'll take care of a hot flash, but where's the progesterone? Where's the testosterone? Where's the strategy? You know what I mean? And so we really want to have a strategy.
Because when I had my ovaries out, you know, they were like, oh, if you start to have hot flashes, we'll put you on estrogen. And knowing that my mom and my grandmother both had estrogen-fed cancer, I'm like, why would we do this to me? We went through the trouble of having my mom go and have be tested to see whether it was genetic or not.
Right.
And then knowing that she had estrogen-fed cancer on both my mom and my grandmother, why would we give me estrogen?
Yeah, well, it's because it's what we know.
Yeah,
it's what we know.
Like, he's like, you know, gives me this whole line and stuff and whatever. And I'm like, I really like my surgeon. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah,
easy on the eyes. He was just uber easy to work with. Answered every billion question that I had and everything else. But I just didn't have faith in the answers that I was getting at the end. And I went in beforehand and asked, hey, can we test my hormone levels before we do anything else so I can see what the baseline is where I'm starting and then where I'm going to end up after this surgery.
Yeah, good idea.
I went in, so after, I think it was like a couple days before surgery, they said, oh, by the way, yeah, they didn't run that test. Thank you. I appreciate it. So if you go in there and you ask those questions and you do that, make sure that they do this and you bring it up and you just don't trust what's in your file.
The problem with doing blood work though is it gives you just a number. And my line is always, well, you gotta be dead to be out of range. Oh, you're fine. Well, you're not really fine. What's more important to me is what's happening inside your body with the hormones you have, what pathway are they traveling. Thus, we like our dried urine testing that we do way better than blood work because it gives you information that we need to then go in and find and fix the issues. You know what I mean? Right. So we don't find a lot of value in blood work except for thyroid, yes. But for sex hormones and cortisol, we find there's just better areas that we can get more information of with another type of testing.
So did you tell me, is it saliva or urine?
It's dried urine. It's the Dutch test from Precision Analytical Labs, and it's dried urine testing for comprehensive hormones. You get 5 little filter papers, you piddle on them, and then it goes into an envelope and goes into the lab in Oregon. And they take about 3 weeks to process those, and they're big machines. I've been there; it's fascinating. And send us back a 15-page report. It tells us the information we need to get you better, not just a number that says, "Oh, well, you're in range." That doesn't mean anything to me, right? Yeah.
Well,
and even the pellet
before my surgery.
Yeah, and even the pellet, the doctors who do pellets, based all on blood work. The other thing I don't like about pellets is it's all testosterone, typically all the time. Very few prescribed progesterone. If they do, it's progesterone capsule. And being the wife of a compounder, I can tell you progesterone capsules don't convert to progesterone. They convert to allopurinol for sleep and not much to progesterone. So even if that rare doctor does prescribe progesterone capsules, that's not really progesterone. You're not going to be protected. So it isn't really hormone balance. It's the pellets, testosterone. There's no balance there. We're about balance and refilling receptors to get you healthy for the rest of your life, right? And that's another thing. You're going to be on hormone therapy until the day that you croak. In my opinion, if you're smart, because your hormones will never come back. You'll never make when you've got a supplement forever.
And I believe that people should be doing that as well as, like I said earlier, educating their daughters and even their sons at the importance of staying balanced. Because, when I have friends, I'm so tired, I come home from work and I can't find energy to do anything else, or grumpy or short and irritant and stuff. And I'm like, have you talked to anybody about your hormones? Because these are all red flags for me that's going on. And by far, I'm not a doctor. I studied it for 3, 4, 5 years when my mom had cancer. And it's completely fascinating. And I could ask you a million more questions. But I know that if people have questions, they should come in and get screened and talk to you and learn more about themselves. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure. It was fun. I loved it.
And if anybody has any more questions, how do they get a hold of you again?
They can go ahead and go to my website, happyhormonecottage.com. They can give us a call. It's on the website, but it's 513-444-6343. So 513-444-6343. They can email me, Lyn with 1 N at happyhormonecottage.com.
And if you need the information as well, we're going to have an additional story about Lyn's background and how the Happy Hormone Cottage got its name, the Happy Hormone Cottage, and on thehipsenior.com. And all of her information will be listed on there as well for everybody.
Yeah.
Lyn, thank you so much for being with us and allowing us to put this in the Hip Senior. It's definitely an advantage to being able to do video with people and link that to a magazine and going nationwide with that. So I definitely appreciate your time today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Thank you so much. It was great talking with you, and have a great rest of the day.
Great. Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.